When I was 17, my best friend Jake convinced me to spend Halloween night in an abandoned house at the edge of town. The place had been empty for decades, shrouded in layers of dust and urban legend. People said strange things happened. There, whispers in the dark, shadows that moved on their own, an old family that disappeared overnight. Typical ghost story nonsense, but Jake ate that stuff up. He always wanted to push the limits of fear, to see how far we could go before we broke. It was just supposed to be me, Jake, and his cousin Danny. But when we met up at the 7-Eleven near the house, Jake had someone else with him, a girl named Lucy. I hadn't seen her before, but she had this quiet, unreadable look, the kind that made it seem like she knew something the rest of us didn't. She was pale, her dark hair falling, in sharp waves around her face, her expression calm, detached. When she smiled, it didn't quite reach her eyes. Something about her made me uneasy, but I didn't say anything. We were just there for a few hours. What was the worst that could happen? We made our way through the overgrown lot, pushing past thick, brittle vines that had wrapped themselves around the porch like skeletal fingers. The front door groaned as we forced it open, revealing an entryway caked in dust and rot. The air inside was heavy, stale, thick with something I couldn't quite place. Danny flicked on his flashlight, illuminating warped floorboards and peeling wallpaper. "Welcome home," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Place is creepy as hell," I muttered. "Exactly why we're here," Jake grinned. He pulled out a six-pack from his backpack and tossed me a can. "Loosen up, man. It's just a house." Lucy said nothing. She just watched us, standing near the staircase, her eyes flicking upward as if she was listening for something. The moment stretched too long, and then she finally spoke. "We should go upstairs." I exchanged a look with Jake. "What for?" I asked. "That's where they found the bodies." A cold chill spread down my spine. Danny chuckled nervously. "What bodies?" Lucy turned to him, her expression unreadable. "The family who lived here. They were murdered. The father killed them all, then himself. The police said they found them in the master bedroom, but they were wrong. They never checked the attic." Jake laughed, shaking his head. "Oh, that's good. Creepy as hell. Let's check it out." I wanted to say no. Everything in me screamed not to go up those stairs, but we did. The floor creaked beneath our weight as we moved toward the master bedroom. The air grew colder, thick with something invisible, something watching. The bedroom was mostly empty, aside from a rusted bed frame and a tattered curtain swaying in the broken window. The moment we stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind us. Danny swore. "That wasn't the wind." Lucy moved to the window, running her fingers along the dust-coated glass. "It's close," she whispered. "What is?" I asked, my pulse hammering. She turned to face us, her expression blank. "The one who never left." Jake was laughing, calling bullshit, but then the scratching started. A slow, deliberate sound, coming from above. From the attic. "Nope. Absolutely not," Danny said, backing toward the door. Jake, of course, wanted to see. "It's probably just rats." He grabbed the handle to the attic hatch and pulled it down. The ladder unfolded, like a crooked limb, leading up into pure darkness. A damp, rotting smell drifted down, thick with decay. Lucy was the first to climb. Her movements were slow, precise, like she wasn't afraid. I didn't know why, but I followed her. The attic was worse than I expected. Cobwebs hung like curtains, dust floating in thick, suffocating clouds. And in the farthest corner, something was crouching. A body. No, bodies. Hunched figures. Their skin pale and leathery, their eyes hollow, gaping, as if they had been waiting. The moment Lucy stepped closer, they moved. Their heads snapped up in unison, their mouths stretching wide into unnatural, hungry grins. I felt Lucy grab my wrist. Her skin was ice cold. "Don't move," she said, her voice as steady as ever. I looked at her, my stomach twisting. She was smiling, but this time, it reached her eyes. Then she whispered something in a language I didn't understand. The creatures lunged. I don't remember much after that. Just screaming. Darkness, the feeling of being pulled downward. The next thing I knew, I was outside, lying on the grass, my head spinning. Jake was next to me, gasping for breath. Danny was gone. Lucy was gone. The house was silent. The authorities never found Danny or Lucy. They searched the house, the attic, everything. But there was nothing there. No bodies. No signs of life. Jake never spoke about that night again. He moved away a few months later. I stayed, but things were never the same. That was 10 years ago. Last night, I woke up to a sound. A slow, deliberate scratching. When I opened my eyes, I saw it. A hand, pale and thin, reaching up from the foot of my bed. And just beyond it, in the shadows, Lucy was smiling. I froze. My breath caught in my throat as the hand slowly crept up the mattress, fingers twitching unnaturally. My mind screamed at me to move, to run, but my body refused. The stench of decay filled my nostrils, thick and suffocating. I forced myself to look away from the grotesque limb and focused on the figure in the mirror. It was still there, grinning, watching. A wave of nausea rolled through me as I finally understood. The friend I had trusted, the one who had led us through the night's horrors, was never human. The realization clawed at my sanity, but it came too late. A sudden, wet, gurgling noise snapped my head towards the other side of the room. My stomach turned to ice. The others, they were not asleep. They were dead. Their throats torn open, blood pooling across the floor in thick, glistening puddles. Their bodies were contorted, as if they had died in agony. My heart pounded like a drumbeat in my skull. I tried to scream, but only a strangled gasp escaped my lips. The hand on my bed twitched again. Then it gripped the blanket and pulled. The entire bed jolted. My legs were exposed. Something cold brushed against my foot. Something wet and slimy. Panic surged through my veins like fire. I kicked wildly, my heel striking something solid. A guttural snarl echoed through the room. I scrambled backward, nearly tumbling off the bed. The mirror caught my eye again. The figure inside was moving now, stepping forward. But it wasn't just a reflection anymore. The glass rippled like water, and I saw something pushing through. A head emerged first, twisted and malformed. Its mouth split into an inhuman, jagged grin. Then its shoulders followed, its body stretching and contorting unnaturally as it forced itself into my reality. I turned to the door, desperate for escape, but it was gone. The walls had changed. The room had changed. The wallpaper peeled like rotting flesh, revealing blackened wood beneath. covered in deep, unreadable carvings. The air itself felt different, thicker, heavier, like I was sinking into something unseen. Then I saw him, the friend I had trusted. He stood at the foot of the bed, watching me with lifeless eyes, his grin wider now, his teeth too sharp. Too many. His skin peeled at the edges, revealing something writhing beneath, something not meant for this world. "I told you not to look," he whispered, voice layered, distorted, as if multiple voices spoke at once. My vision blurred with tears. My mind refused to accept what I was seeing. The figure in the mirror was almost fully through now, its arms reaching out, elongated fingers dripping with something dark and viscous. The hand on my bed tightened its grip, pulling again. The bed lurched forward this time, dragging me inches closer to the thing crawling from the mirror. Then the whispering started, soft at first, like a distant hum, but growing louder, surrounding me. Words in a language I didn't understand, voices overlapping, growing more frantic. My skin burned where the whispers touched, as if invisible hands were clawing at me, pulling me apart piece by piece. I thrashed, desperate, screaming. My fingers found the lamp beside my bed. Without thinking, I grabbed it and swung blindly. The light shattered, sending sparks raining down. For a split second, everything stopped. Then the screeching began. The figure in the mirror convulsed violently, its form distorting, twisting as if the broken light had wounded it. My friend, or what had once been my friend, let out a guttural, inhuman wail. I didn't wait. I lunged for the floor, slipping on the blood, my hands slamming against the wet wood. I crawled towards the door that had vanished, praying, begging, that I could find a way out. Then I heard it. The sound of something crawling behind me, slow, deliberate. The weight of a presence pressing down on me. Breathing, shaking. I turned my head, just enough to see. A hand was reaching from underneath the bed, not the first one, another, pale, rotting, fingers twitching, then another and another, hands, dozens of them, emerging from beneath, dragging themselves forward, reaching, hungry. My scream was swallowed by the darkness as the hands closed around my legs and pulled. The last thing I saw before I was dragged under was my own reflection in the mirror, standing, grinning, whispering to me with my own voice.